holy swordsman died, sacrificing himself for victory against 6 dragons. But if heroes fall, then legends rise again. His soul decided not to give up until the last, and then he woke up 100 years later. Now he's reborn to finish what he started, to cleanse the world of its greatest enemies. Even death didn't stop him. Can a man forged by death and born again bring final peace? Let's find out. This story begins in a half-destroyed city. The sky was filled with winged creatures, dragons, and the ground with monsters. The people who tried to fight them back suffered great losses. Just one blow from the black dragon, Vitra, stopped 90% of the attacking force of their base. They were already beginning to wonder if this was the end, and the dragon confirmed it, ordering them all to disappear. Vitra released a powerful stream of energy, charged with sparks from his mouth. And the people covered their heads in horror, and then their protector appeared in front of them, dispersing the energy with one swing of his sword. It was the holy swordsman Agito. He told them that they had worked hard, and they should leave the rest to him. Once upon a time, back in the 1900s, gates began to appear all over the world, and from them came 6 dragons with their army which they had to fight. Humanity had no choice but to resist them without any knowledge. But when the battle began, the people were able to use magic. But too many lives were being sacrificed to defeat one army of monsters. The final battle was about to begin. Almasaki Yumi arrived at the scene of the battle, and the commander guessed what the fact that they were both there meant after catching her breath. She turned around and said that he had defeated all the other dragons. Only the black dragon Vitra remained. She felt a sharp pain and fell to one knee, saying that everyone else was already at their limit. Her comrades were now also experiencing terrible pain. The only one who could fight was Agito. The commander said that they had no choice but to trust him. And meanwhile, Vitra said that it seemed like the other dragons had been defeated. Is he going to challenge him using only his sword skills? Agito confidently told him that it was not just sword skills. He would use all his strength to destroy him. Yumi said that all humans have a huge amount of hidden magic power, but his magic is not enough for even one beginner spell. He is simply not able to cast magic. That's why he came up with it. The infinite magic power that is contained in his sword is the Hekken-style sword technique. He used his ability and decided to start the fight first, and the dragon called him a fool and ordered him to turn into dust, after which he used the black rain spell and energy pillars fell on Agito from 5 magic circles. He suddenly disappeared from the spot, and a second later, he was already in the air, masterfully avoiding enemy attacks. He aligned with the dragon's head and used the 8-sword Sonata, God of Thunder, after which he waved his hand and delivered a powerful blow. Seeing this, the commander exclaimed in surprise that he did it. He did not expect such power from a person who does not own magic. Blood flowed down Vitra's face, but it quickly evaporated, and he said that he understood everything. What kind of useless things did people do up to this point? A third eye grew on his forehead, and then he flapped his wings and thunder broke out, and the rising wind blew away the already destroyed houses. Yumi decided to intervene and raised a protective barrier, telling everyone else not to move and stand near her, and Agito smirked and noted that this was the first time he had encountered such power and pressure. He became much more serious, but he was also ready to put everything on the line. He closed his eyes and concentrated on the secret technique of the 8-sword style, Akatsuki, and ordered the dragon to attack. After that, they both rushed towards each other. Agito dealt many blows like the dragon, from which a flash remained after each attack. Yumi said that with this he could fight Vitra on equal terms. Akatsuki absorbs and combines the magical elements of the surrounding attributes, while creating an explosive force. But the more he uses it, the faster his life is reduced. Still continuing to hold the barrier, she thought that there was also a chance that she would not be able to defend herself from such a spell. She needs to find a way before the dragon notices her. Meanwhile, the battle between the holy swordsman and the dragon continued, but the latter froze in place for some reason. His third eye noticed a glowing protective dome behind Agito, and said that it was naive. They did not lose hope until the very end. The girl realized that he noticed them, and Vitra, calling them pathetic insects, created a magic circle and let out a roar. Preparing to attack, Agito understood that if this could not be avoided, then everyone would be sacrificed. Then he decided to sacrifice himself because there was no other choice. He finally turned to Yumi and told her that this was the end. The rest is on her realizing what he was going to do. She became worried and the dragon at that moment released a powerful stream of energy at Agito, which is called the Dark Book of Death. And he meanwhile used the Sonata of Eight Swords. A golden flame flared up behind him. And he, realizing that this was the end of his journey, rushed towards the purple beam of light with a loud cry, holding out his blade. Then two powerful energies collided and a confrontation began, from which the winner would be the one who was stronger. Noticing that the golden flame was approaching, Vetra became nervous and wished for its death, and then he was blinded by a bright glow, and an explosion was heard in the sky from which a shockwave passed. In the end, Agito emerged victorious from this battle, leaving the black dragon without half of his body. Vetra fell to the ground with a crash and Agito followed him, due to lack of strength. He was unable to land normally and began to lose his balance. Then Yumi caught him and laid him on her lap, telling him not to move. He was badly injured. The commander, along with other warriors, approached him and asked in surprise, "Did he do it?" He caught his breath and told him that the core was destroyed. He would not wake up again. After his words, joyful cries were heard and the commander wiped away his tears, realizing that humanity was still able to survive. Yumi began to treat him. And suddenly Vitra's voice was heard calling Agito pathetic. He quickly looked around and since the others were still happy, and the girl continued to treat him, he sat up and wondered if this voice was heard only by him. He looked at the dragon's body, and it said that their plan to awaken the strongest dragon, Ragnar, had not changed. All the conditions had already been met. Agito became worried. And Vitra said that under the protection of the divine dragon the 6 dragons would be reborn in 100 years, so his battle was in vain. After these words his body disappeared, and he called out to him but immediately grunted in pain, and Yumi worriedly called out to him. He gritted his teeth and thought of the divine dragon Ragnar, so defeating the 6 dragons isn't the end yet. No matter how hard Yumi tried, she couldn't heal his wounds. And that made her nervous. And he thought that he had used Akatsuki Hajime too often, causing his consciousness to slowly fade. He began to mentally beg for someone to give him another chance. Since his battle was still not over, he began to fall asleep and Yumi, noticing this, called out to the others. After which he closed his eyes and plunged into the darkness. A bright comet appeared in the midst of this darkness. It passed through the halos and fell into the golden magic circle, after which a measured beep was heard. The device said that his vital signs were normal. The patient's level of consciousness had been restored. The patient's name was Mitsurugi Agito. The attending physician would come to him soon, so let him wait for a while. He opened his eyes slightly and thought it was so noisy in here. He quickly realized that he was in a hospital, but there were so many devices that he had never seen before. Maybe it was some kind of military facility. At that moment, a program telling the history of this world was just playing on TV. The TV said that a ceremony was held to celebrate the peace achieved by the Saint of Swordsmen, Agito, and the other 4 heroes. They were going to celebrate their 100th anniversary this year. Agito opened his mouth wide in shock, and when he saw the information on TV, that a special documentary about the war with the 6 dragons would be shown in honor of the 100th anniversary, he exclaimed in surprise, has it already been 100 years? He started looking around for someone who could explain this whole situation to him, and then his gaze fell on the mirror. And he saw a completely different person in the reflection, and wondered maybe he had reincarnated. What was going on? The TV showed emergency news. The host told the viewers that some gates were activated last month, and today more than 50 new ones were confirmed to be activated. From the abnormal, magical earthquakes that constantly occur in various places, among the citizens. There are also rumors that this may be the return of the 6 dragons. The Magic Guild is on high alert because of this. Agito thought he remembered Vitra's words about their return. He does not know why he managed to reincarnate, but this is his chance. If the 6 dragons have already been reborn, then the arrival of Ragnar will be soon. But he does not think that everything will go according to their plan. He will definitely stop Ragnar's awakening. After he returned home, he learned about the guy whose body he got into. He is a student of the School of Magic, lost his parents in early childhood, lives alone, but despite this, His name is too similar to his. He wanted to tell the Mage Guild of this era about the 6 dragons, and Ragnar as soon as possible. And then a Sodakin caught his eye. He placed his hand on the hilt of his sword, concentrated, and then made a quick swing and returned the sword to its sheath, and the Sodakin was cut into several pieces. After testing his strength, he decided to take action. While he was walking down the street, he noticed a large screen that was currently showing a press conference from the Mage Guild. The reporters inquired about what caused the gate to activate. They heard that the number of monsters had increased. The guild leader did not comment on these questions, and said that they would send high-ranking mages, including S, to various places in order to maintain public order. A powerful monster may have been born on the other side of the gate. They are also doing their best to find out the reason. Agito noted that he formulated his answer so clearly. It seems that the guilds in this era are quite powerful. However, he does not want his existence to be known to the dragons. He will go to the guild now and explain the current situation, until he can grasp the enemy's movements. It is better for him to live the life of Agito Mitsurugi. Soon he reached the place where he studies, the Kagura Magic Academy. He thought that he was lucky enough to be reincarnated into the body of a student. In this place he can easily obtain information, and if things go well, he will be able to establish contact with the guilds and high-ranking officials. And above all, he needs strong allies to fight the 6 dragons. If there are talented students here, he should explain everything to them. When he walked to the main courtyard of the academy, he saw a student casting a fireball spell. He stretched out his hands forward and released a small fireball at a dummy, and the teacher praised him, saying that he has become a little stronger. Now he can become B rank. The student was delighted, but Agito was shocked. Looking at the others whose spells were not as large as 100 years ago, he could not believe his eyes. They were all too weak, and this is the level of a modern mage. This is below the level of a recruit in the old days. He found his classroom and thought that this was bad. How can he find strong allies here? But first of all, he needs to assess the situation well and then decide what to do next. As soon as he entered the classroom, a guy named Hibiyuki, a local bully, called out to him and asked if he had recovered right. He was worried because he had been in the hospital for a month. He and his friends came closer to him and said that when he left, they did not know who to use as their toy. After these words he laughed out loud, and the rest of the students in the classroom became nervous. Agito was scared for a second. He already thought that his true identity had been revealed. Still, he is embarrassed by this name. But he has to pretend to be Mitsurugi Agito. He apologized to the bully and said that he was in the hospital, and somehow forgot some things. Who are they because of this? The bullies got angry and Yuki grabbed him by the collar, pulling him closer, and asked if an F-rank idiot forgot everything. He said his name and rank A and then kicked him in the chest, causing him to fall down. Now he understands what is going on here. Yuki called him trash and said that he is acting crazy. Meanwhile, the rest of the students started whispering. They were discussing Yuki, but were afraid to say anything against him, just so he wouldn't make fun of them. Meanwhile, he noticed the weapon on Agito's belt, and said with a smirk, "That outdated swords are perfect for an idiot like him." Does he hope that he can do something? Become a hero like Saint Agito? But that's impossible, only his name makes them similar. He laughed again and Agito sighed heavily, saying that he already understood everything. That guy was hospitalized because of his bullying. He threw his hand away, stood up and dusted off his clothes, saying that he had things to do. Why doesn't he hone his skills instead of doing such stupid things? The rest of the students became very nervous. They all understood what was about to happen. Yuki literally flared up with rage, and his friends became nervous and began to warn Agito that he would be hospitalized like that again. Yuki was so angry that he intended to kill him and cast a fire spell, which made everyone in the class run away, but Agito remained standing. The bully exclaimed that since he wanted to die so much, he would perform his spell and then shot a fireball at him. Before the fireball could get close to him, he pulled out his sword and swung it using the 8 swords technique. Whirlwind strike. Yuki was thrown back several meters and the fireball disappeared, which surprised everyone. Could it be that the F-rank Agito reflected the magic that almost reached the A rank? Yuki, meanwhile, fell to the floor in horror. looked at Ajito thinking, is this guy really that Ajito? He convinced himself that this was some kind of mistake, and exclaimed that he did not believe it, after which he used a spell and was about to strike. But a girl appeared in the passage who ordered him to stop. Her name is Amasaki Erika. She is a descendant of the great hero Amasaki Yumi, and her power reaches the A rank. Yuki gave her a displeased look and Ajito was slightly surprised. Everyone in the class was very happy that she had returned from the expedition, and she told the bully not to use such magic indoors. It seemed like he especially enjoyed bullying his classmates. She dispelled his magic with just one swing of her sword, and said that if he continued to do so, she would act differently. He had no choice but to listen to this intimidating girl, and told his friends to leave. As soon as they left the classroom, she sighed and her friends ran up to her, starting to congratulate her on her return, and asking how everything was abroad. Meanwhile Ajito, because of her last name, thought, could this be a descendant of Yumi? Maybe he could talk to this girl about the situation. Yuki meanwhile was taking out his emotions on the poor tree and cursing loudly, because this guy had embarrassed him. He threw a fireball at the tree and shouted that he would not forgive him, and would definitely kill him. Meanwhile, not far from the school, one of the agents of the 6 dragons, Odium, was hovering in the sky. He came here to erase the unsightly origins of the 4 great heroes, but this guy interested him. He has such an unpleasant name. But it seems like he caught an unexpected prey. He chuckled and thought that soon, in the name of Ruble, that soon he will fully recover. He, Odium, will take care of it. Meanwhile, Yuki decided to call Ajito and Erika to a fight after school, since they had disgraced him. And his friends asked in surprise, is he joking? Not only Ajito, but also Erika, who is a descendant of one of the 4 heroes. He asked, what difference does it make? Those who insulted him he will personally kill. Then applause was heard nearby. Odium came down to him and said that his anger was so amazing. Yuki asked who he was and where he came from, and felt a strong pressure. The dragon said that he was so rude and then introduced himself to him, saying that he was one of the army of 6 dragons, a confidant of the Master Ruble. And now he will see if he can be of use to him. He grabbed his head and began to carry out some manipulations, with the help of magical power, which caused a mark to appear on the guy's neck, after which he fell to his knees without strength. His friends were worried about him and called out to him. Then Yuki turned to them, but his gaze was fierce. The boys became nervous and began to ask, what happened and what happened to him? But he ignored them and walked towards them, lighting a flame in his hand. He gave them a fierce look and then a scream was heard. In the end his 2 friends died at his hands, which the dragon liked very much. He laughed and remarked that it turned out beautifully. Finally, everything was prepared and now they just had to start everything. Time passed. The students gathered at the gate of Class C in the Mukuro Mountains. The teacher said that a practical lesson would be held in this gate. He did not care how and with whom they united in this battle. The main thing is that they killed at least 5 monsters, and just in case the A rank executives were invited as observers, so they should not worry. Ajito remembered the magical abilities of the current generation, and wondered if everything would be okay. Among the crowd of students, he noticed Erika. He approached her and thanked her for her help. Earlier she told him with a smile that it was nothing. She had just scared him a little. If he had any problems again, he should tell her and next time she would hit him. He laughed nervously and remembering. Yumi thought that it was immediately obvious whose great-granddaughter she was. Erika said that besides such people, only targeted weak opponents, which was why she had confronted him. She didn't think he had the courage to attack her. For some reason he was slightly surprised. He remembered his former comrades, and realized that they had all lived long and happy lives. Noticing that he was lost in thought, she asked what was wrong, and he told her with a smile that everything was fine. They would see each other later. He left and she thought that what Ajito showed her this morning didn't look like magic. It didn't look like an accident. It was definitely a sword technique. The fireball was dispersed by the shockwave, due to its enormous speed. Even an S-rank swordsman couldn't do something like that. Only one person could do something like that, the legendary swordsman who fought alongside her great-grandmother, the holy swordsman Ajito. She wondered who this Mitsurugi was, and it was time to enter the gate. Soon after they began their journey through the cave, they encountered some kind of huge half-orc, half-pig creature who warned them of his approach with his cry. The students surrounded him from all sides and began to cast spells, but apparently they didn't expect that the monster would not just stupidly stand in place and start to strike back. So he swung his club, knocked one of the students to the ground and was about to crush him, but Ajito arrived to his aid. In time he dealt with him with just one swing of his sword and turned to the guy asking, "Is he okay?" He began to teach him that distance was the key to fighting orcs. While the others were surprised that he was so fast, he waved goodbye to the students and continued on his way, thinking that, as he had expected, low-ranking students couldn't pass this test quickly. He still needed to establish contact with influential people from the guilds. When he entered the next hall of the cave, he noticed something was wrong. All the monsters' bodies on the ground were torn to pieces, and Yuki stood among them, almost completely covered in blood. He questioned his name and became wary, after which Yuki turned around and shouted with a beastly grin that he would kill him. Quickly breaking away, he approached him and enveloped his fist in fire, but he managed to dodge, and noticed that his magic power had increased sharply. His movements were somehow strange. He suspected something was wrong, and held his sword out in front of him to block the blow. Then Yuki grabbed his scabbard with both hands and he, noticing his broken fingers, wondered if he really didn't feel any pain. Yuki continued to press on him and say something unintelligible, drooling at one point. His gaze cleared up a little and he asked him to save him, which made Ajito's eyes widen. And he remembered his wounded comrades and the dragon's victims, grinding his teeth with hatred. He ordered the enemy to leave him, after which he lit two fingers and touched the boy's forehead with them, causing the mark on his neck to disappear. He immediately lost consciousness, but Ajito managed to catch him, and told his assailant that he knew he was there. Let him come out immediately. He carefully laid Yuki on the ground, and then Odium's laughter echoed throughout the cave. He appeared from a purple haze and said that his toy was now broken. It seemed that he would better kill him first, and then he extended his hand towards him, casting a spell and said his name, saying that he was the agent of the flame dragon Rubel, who would return soon. Many magic circles appeared around Ajito, and the dragon said that he would now become his executioner. After his words, flames gushed out from the magic circles, but such a seasoned fighter as he was not afraid. He took out his sword and made several quick swings, dispelling the flames, and Odium thought in surprise, did his magic instantly disappear? Ajito said that the return of the 6 dragons will not happen, because he is the one who will ruin all their plans. Odium smirked and noted that he was so impudent, after which he invited him to play and fired several magic projectiles at him, which he skillfully avoided and even managed to get closer to him. He wanted to strike, but his opponent's claws suddenly grew and blocked the attack. Ajito noted that he was in a good mood, but why does he hurt people? He smiled and exclaimed that it was all fun. After these words they both increased the distance between them, and the man began to shoot at him again, and he dodged again. Odium said that the war 100 years ago was incredible. Predators provide their prey with an escape route while hunting, and as soon as they begin to think that they have escaped, the predator appears in front of them, and experiences great pleasure from driving the prey into a trap, and hearing the cry of a child who is killed by a distraught mother is even more pleasant. Ajito's face darkened, and the man said with pleasure that it was so fun, and when the divine dragon awakens, he will be able to experience this again. He clenched his fists in joy, then looked up at his opponent with a displeased expression, and began casting his spell again, saying that he would not let anyone get in the way of their plan. He laughed loudly again, and then Ajito somehow appeared behind him and swung his sword, causing him to lose his arm. He looked at his shoulder in shock, and Ajito told him to shut up. He hated hearing that. Odium felt a sharp pain and screamed loudly and attacked him in rage, screaming that he would kill him. then began swinging his claws randomly. Just to hit him, he screamed in rage that he was just a pathetic bug, but he ignored him and parried another attack. While he exclaimed that he was just a piece of meat that they had to hunt, he raised his hand, creating a magic circle above himself, and told him not to be impudent. He would burn him so much that it would be impossible to even recognize him. Many fiery stones fell from the circle. A peculiar meteor shower began. The spell fell on the entire hall, and Agito thought that it looked like he was going to destroy this gate, since he left him no choice. He decided to use the 8 blades technique, making a couple of quick swings. He threw the meteorites away, and one of the blows just hit the enemy. He was thrown aside, but this technique seemed familiar to him, after which all the meteorites were cut into small pieces, and Odium himself fell to the ground with a roar, slowly getting up. He said with a grin that he recognized this technique, but these memories are unpleasant. When the Ruble army was defeated, someone used exactly this technique. That person was the holy swordsman Agito. He heard that he died in the war. Now it seems he has reincarnated. Agito asked if he should even answer. Someone who was about to lose his head. Odium gritted his teeth, and then for some reason laughed and grabbed his head, saying that the holy sword. Agito is such an unlucky person, and yet he is here, so is his destiny to die again, but this time he will defy fate. He opened his eyes wide and grabbed his head, feeling a strong pain, and Agito became weary. Tentacles began to grow in place of his torn-off arm. His teeth became sharper and his body grew. He said that soon the day of the dragon god's awakening would come, and then they would gain new power. A huge shadow grew over Agito. Odium transformed into a half-dragon, and let out a loud roar that shook the entire cave, causing stones to fall from the ceiling. Agito covered his face from the suddenly rising wind, after which Odium took a step towards him and laughed, telling him to look, this is the blessing of the dragon god. What despair will he show him now? Agito noted that he finally showed him what he was hiding, but now that he knows his true identity, he must destroy him. After his opponent let out a loud roar, the other students felt the shaking and became very nervous, but Erika felt a very familiar magic. She ordered everyone to leave immediately, and ran to the source of the magic. Thinking that this is it, the energy is too powerful, she needs to go deeper into the cave. When she arrived at the scene, she found Agito and some unknown monster. She looked at her classmate and wondered in surprise, why is he here? Odium meanwhile waved his hand, leaving deep claw marks on the ground, and Agito had already managed to get behind him. Erika and the monster were surprised by his movements, and a cut appeared on the latter's cheek. Immediately after that, many deep wounds appeared on his body, causing him to scream loudly. Agito said that it was such a disappointment, he was so big, but he squeals like a girl. Odium said with a smirk that he was joking, after which all the cuts began to heal quickly, and Erika was surprised to think, did he just laugh at him? Agito sighed in annoyance, and his opponent reminded him that he has the blessing of the dragon god, and tricks like sword techniques will not work on him. After saying this, he began to shoot magic projectiles at Agito, but of course none of them hit him. And Erika meanwhile realized that this monster is too strong. It definitely has S-rank strength. Odium crossed his arms and then disappeared from the spot, and suddenly appeared in front of Agito, who immediately put out his sword to block. He looked at it and thought that the blessing of the dragon god was too much for the agent class. After his strike, he jumped to the side and the monster began to press him, saying that he was a person from the past, and he failed to ruin their plan. He died thinking that he saved the world. But everything turned out completely differently. He's just a stupid hero. Noticing that he was starting to get hit, Erika called out to him in concern, but Odium's voice drowned her out. He put more strength into his hand and exclaimed that the world he wanted to save no longer existed, even though he was about to hit him. Agito stood there and didn't move. Just as his claw was about to reach his face, he swung his hand, cutting it off. And then a wide deep cut appeared on the monster's body. He coughed up blood and said in shock that it was impossible. He tried to heal himself but realized that he couldn't. His regeneration simply couldn't keep up. He fell to his knees in pain. And Agito walked towards him, saying that he was right, he's not a hero or anything. Many of his friends died in that war. However, the peace they won lasted for 100 years, and this time it will last forever. For the sake of his friends and their descendants, this time he would save the world forever. The monster chuckled and said that it was naive, then rushed towards him, but he stopped him with his bare hand. He gritted his teeth and nervously thought that this was simply impossible, then shouted in rage that he did not want to lose to a loser like him, a person who was supposed to die. He suddenly increased in size and said with a smile that he definitely would not lose to someone like him, but before he could take a step, Agito's blade was in front of his chest. He used the 8-blade technique, piercing moon, and lunged forward, sending a shock wave in the shape of a circle at the enemy. From this, blood spurted out of his mouth, and his body became covered in cracks and began to collapse. His monster shell peeled off his body, and stretching his hand to the sky, he called out to his master, then disappeared. As soon as the fight was over, Erika ran up to Agito and called out to him in a displeased voice, ordering him to explain who he was. At the same time, in the Chubu region of Japan, somewhere in the rank gate called the Depths of Hell, there was a girl named Tomarina. With the nickname Permafrost and the strength of the S rank, she was sitting on the frozen corpse of a dragon, and talking to someone. She said that she would inform the guildmaster that the lieutenant of the army of one of the 6 dragons was allegedly killed. Her interlocutor asked, "So the resurrection of the 6 dragons will happen?" Their prediction was correct. "If it is not S rank, then there is a re-invasion," she sighed and asked. Now she needs to find out the location of the 6 dragons. She also wants to ask for more helpers. Now she doesn't have any days off at all. He told her not to worry, he has already found a candidate. His name is Mitsurugi Agito. He was the one who killed Rubel's agent, who calls himself Odium. She looked at his information and asked incredulously, "Did he kill him?" She looked up at her fellow S rank named Riku Udo Purin, and he said that it was impossible. He didn't have any magical power, but he wielded a sword, so he dealt with him by himself. There must be some kind of mistake. Their boss said that any of them could check it out, whether his powers were real or not. Let them see for themselves. If he was really that strong, then he would allow them to invite him to Seraphim. Riku took a deep breath and said that he would do it, and Rina would handle the report. She displeasantly told him to admit that he just didn't want to write it, but he didn't give an answer, as he noticed many small dragons in the sky, and said that the cleanup was not finished yet. Reaching his hand up, he used his thunder magic, and several electric poles shot into the sky, frying the dragons. And he said that he can't wait to see how cool this Mitsurugi is. Some time passed after they returned to school. Agito told Erika everything. After learning the truth, she exclaimed in surprise, "In other words, he is the holy swordsman." Agito and the 6 dragons are preparing to awaken the dragon god. He confirmed it, and she grabbed her head, saying that this is just crazy. She thought it was a bad prank, but his sword skill is at the level of an S rank mage, and she has no other explanation for this, unless he is the holy swordsman Agito himself. She sighed heavily and said that she believes him, but on one condition. She also participates in the battle with the 6 dragons. She, like him, also wants to protect this world, and she is definitely not going to stand aside. Because of her behavior, he remembered Yumi. She was also so determined and confident. He smiled and noted that she was definitely her descendant, and thought that she had inherited this magic from her as well. She didn't hear what he said and asked what his plan was. He told her that he was thinking of gathering more allies, since the 2 of them definitely couldn't handle it. They needed to find the same ones as before, like the 4 great heroes. Erika touched her chin thoughtfully, and said that it meant that they needed mages, like her great-grandmother. Seraphim came to mind. Maybe they could help them. It was an organization that researched gate anomalies, and it included S-rank people. He knew that she had gone abroad. It was an invitation from Seraphim. She had been helping them with their investigation. If she had to describe them in one word, she would say that Agito didn't let her finish, and said with a smirk that they were the strongest. But the question still arose. Would they believe his story or not? She told him that she thought it would be okay. There were different people in this organization, but they had the same goal, which was to protect the world. created by the holy swordsman and the 4 great heroes, so they fought so she thought they would believe him. He replied that it was a relief that this era also had its heroes. It would be great to be able to fight alongside people like that. She said that there were some strange individuals among them, and at that moment Agito suddenly turned around. Noticing something, he quickly drew his sword, and blocked a sudden lightning attack that Erika hadn't even noticed. Agito told her to be careful. They had a guest after that. Udo Riku landed nearby with a clap of thunder and said that, to tell the truth, he had been looking forward to this moment, and it seemed like it was worth it. She was very surprised when she saw him, and Agito asked if she knew him. She told him that he was the highest rank, and the best lightning magic user in the world. He is also a member of the Seraphim Guild. Agito was wary, and Riku said that it seemed like he had defeated a pawn of one of the 6 dragons. He had defeated a guy like that once before, but he wasn't as strong. However, he didn't think that he could be defeated by a normal student. He told him to prepare for a test of his abilities and cast a spell, summoning a magic circle in front of his hand and then several more, thus amplifying the magic. Erika realized that he was using Deafening Thunderclap. Isn't that a spell used on large monsters like dragons? And he was about to hit the man with it. Riku said that he didn't care what he used, he only cared if he could withstand the blow. If he could, he would invite him to Seraphim. He smiled and said that it was so cute, and if he couldn't, he told him that he would just write in the report that it was a miscalculation. Agito prepared for battle and said that he had everything so well thought out, then told him to attack, and his opponent began casting a spell, Deafening Thunderclap. At the same time, Agito used the 8 blades technique, 6-petal blade burial, and then swung his sword, causing a bright flash to appear in front of him. Riku was enjoying the event, and Erika covered her eyes from the blinding light, and when she opened them she saw that Agito easily withstood the blow. Riku grinned, and Agito meanwhile was delighted. Such a level of a mage was rare. Even in his time he was simply incredible. He enthusiastically said the name of his opponent, and with a wide smile on his face, he offered him to become his ally. He frowned in response, then smiled and said that he agreed. He patted the protagonist on the shoulder and added that he should have suggested it. He agreed and then asked what. Riku added that he was amazing. He was able to stop his attack with just a sword. The protagonist closed his eyes and said that he was too serious. By the way, that was a disguised spell. Deafening Thunderclap, right? Riku looked at him in surprise. And MC added that if he had gone all out, everything here would have been destroyed. There aren't many mages of that level. He smiled and thought, did he see through him that quickly? That's comparable to an S rank. He looked at the protagonist's aura and spread his arms out to the sides and said with a smile, he's definitely not a candidate. From today on he will be part of the Seraphim Guild. The protagonist replied that he would be happy to fight alongside him. By the way, Erika will be with them. Right at that moment, she just appeared behind him, and he turned around and asked, what is it? Isn't she in Seraphim? The next second Riku said that it was impossible. The operation records he read from the North American branch showed that her magic power was inferior to theirs, and her swordsmanship was not as outstanding as his. You shouldn't say such a thing. But one needs to be stronger to join them. She is not at the level for Seraphim. She understands this better than anyone. Erika, hearing this, lowered her gaze. She was confident in her strength, but this situation at the gate showed her that she was not up to it. She still lacked the strength to join Seraphim. The protagonist then asked, is that all? Riku looked at him in surprise, and he said that he was sure that Erika had a hidden talent that she herself did not know about. Her strength would be needed for the upcoming battle. Erika was surprised. What a Jito. Riku put his hands forward and said that he knew what skills she had, and to say that it was absolutely necessary. He sighed and added he could do anything that this girl could. The protagonist smiled and said that it was not so. He had to forgive him, but he couldn't do even that. In some areas this girl was superior to him and the rest of the guys. Erika looked at him in surprise. Riku said thousands of mages lose their lives every year on missions. Although 100 years have passed since the war, the gates and monsters have not disappeared, even though the holy swordsman and the 4 great heroes defeated the 6 dragons. Every time there is exploration or battle, someone loses a life as long as there are S ranks. Newbies don't just die. He frowned and clenched his fist and added, "This is what Seraphim was created for." Knowing all this, he still recommends Erika. The protagonist confirmed this and added that this girl's talents are at the S rank level. She will be useful to Seraphim. She asked him to wait. Riku was right. She still needs to hone her skills at school. At that moment, Rina approached them and noted that it was true hidden talent. If she really had that kind of power, they would have seen hints of it from the start. Erika was surprised by her arrival. Riku, putting his hands on his waist, asked why she was here. She replied that they were old acquaintances. MC, looking at her, thought, "Another Seraphim, this girl must be talented too." Rina looked at him and asked, "So he still insisted on Erika? The four of them will be going on the next research mission. She should let him teach him a lesson in modesty." Riku waved his hand and told her not to do it. It was too troublesome. Then the protagonist said, "That's right, there's a much faster way. How about a 2 versus 2 duel?" Erika asked duels. The next second they released their aura, and she said that he was underestimating them. He didn't even know how strong they were. MC smiled and said of course he knew that, and she said okay. But they were using the training grounds of their guild for that. If an S rank fought at full strength, there would definitely be damage to the area they were using. Riku added that was just his thing. It didn't matter if it was a duel or something like that, he just wanted to fight this guy. With that he flexed his fists and the protagonist added, without holding back. Riku offered to show off his full skills. Erika called out to the protagonist and he said that it was okay. She was much stronger than she thought. He then turned to her and asked if she would believe in him and fight with him. She remained silent and then thought, Saint Swordsman Agito believes in her so much. Then she shouted that she believes in him. She will show her strength in a real fight. He closed his eyes and said, "So it's agreed he and Erika will defeat them sometime later." At the Magic Guild headquarters, Jinguji announced the list of participants has been compiled. Mitsurugi Agito F rank and Amasaki Erika A rank against Udo, Riku S rank and Toma Reina S rank. The duel will begin when the protective barrier is activated. The people present were watching from a large window. One of them asked Riku and Reina are in a pair. Another noticed it is the daughter of the Amasaki family. The man asked Mitsurugi Agito, "Who is he? Will this be a real battle?" Jinguji folded his hands in front of his face and said that they will understand everything when the battle begins. Agito, he defeated the assistant of one of the dragons single-handedly. Now that their fears were confirmed, they needed as many human resources as possible. He had to let him test his abilities. After a while the system announced that there were 40 seconds left before the barrier would activate. 39 The protagonist looked up and said, "What a big barrier. Is it all done by machines?" Erika confirmed that a lot of things are done by this. Now she noticed that he looked too relaxed for a person who was about to fight. She then added that it would take some time, but anyone could create a stable defensive barrier. Rina noticed that it was true. A long time ago a holy swordsman fought alongside Amasaki Yumi, and it seemed that she had her own powerful defensive spell. They were not fighting dragons, so defensive magic and these machines would be enough. In other words, if a powerful defensive mage like Yumi appeared, it would definitely be very useful even in their time. Rina wanted to ask what he wanted, but before she could finish speaking, Riku stood in front of her and said, "Enough talking, they will find out everything when their battle begins." Right, the protagonist confirmed this. He was looking forward to it. The system reported that there were 5 seconds left until the barrier was activated for. Riku smirked finally. The system reported it's done. The opponents jumped in different directions and the next second, Riku concentrated energy in his hand, creating a magic symbol, and he used an ability called Doomsday. Lightning burst out straight from his magic symbol. Jinguji frowned and shouted unexpected. The protagonist ran forward and told his partner to leave it to him. He used a strong gust, sending out several pulses of energy from the swing of his sword. Those present were surprised. He blocked Riku's spell. What is this? I've never seen such a skill. The next second Riku was very close to the protagonist, and pointed the Thunder King sword forward, but the protagonist held his sword in front of him, blocking his attack, and shouted wow. He didn't expect that lightning could become a sword. He chuckled in response. He's an S rank. He can do anything. He swung the thunder sword again. MC dodged and moved back. Riku laughed and Rina concentrated energy in her hand, creating a magic symbol and used ice spear dance. Several ice shards rushed forward. Riku was indignant. Hey! He's his opponent, the protagonist said. 2 mages of this level as expected of Seraphim. He then thrust his sword into the floor and used Earth Rip. The surface in front of him was covered in cracks. Rocks came out of the ground. Stopping the ice shards, the system reported danger. Jinguji ordered to increase the barrier's strength by 2 no. By 3 times the workers agreed with him, and he thought the barrier device was created, using the latest achievements of magical science. But it was so easily damaged. Then he said, Agito. Why hasn't such a talented person existed yet? He thought it was incredible. This guy is a genius like Riku. At that moment the protagonist holding a sword ran forward and shouted, and she held on well. Rina. He thought she wasn't even breathing. She continuing to use the spell. Said that she should be the one telling him. But is everything okay? He only pays attention to her. Her ally is in danger, he shouted Erika. The next second Riku was above her and said that he approved of Agito. Not her. He sent a powerful pulse of electrical energy downwards, using a deafening clap of thunder. Erika began to cast a spell. Saint Lona Fort flammed the light. The protection in her hands must resist death and destruction. Jinguji watching this was perplexed and shouted, What kind of spell? Many magicians have tried, unsuccessfully, to create the skill of one of the great heroes. Amasaki Yumi. The next second, she released a holy shield, blocking the enemy's attack. They looked at her in confusion. Rina said holy shield. Her partner added she stopped it. MC asked didn't he talk about her hidden talent? Now it's their turn to attack. A few hours earlier, Erika sat at the table opposite the protagonist and thought, so this is a boys' room. This is her first time entering one. Is it normal for her to be here right before a duel? Agito has been silent for a long time. He said that he wants to talk about her talent. But could it be something else? She blushed in embarrassment and then frowned, thinking that she should pull herself together. As a member of the Amasaki family, she can't let herself be confused by something like this. Then he called her and said that he will get straight to the point. She inherited her great-grandmother's power. She was surprised. What? He replied that he was talking about her talent. And what did she think she replied? Oh no. He added that her talent was defensive magic. Her great-grandmother Amasaki Yuka, one of the 4 great heroes, had the same power as her. She looked at her hands and asked, so she can do the same as her great-grandmother. He added that her talent has not yet awakened. Usually it takes years to awaken on its own. She was surprised. What? But they don't have time. What should they do? Then the protagonist stood behind her, and she called out to him in surprise. He said that they will do it. After that he touched her back and she screamed in fear. She moved to the side and holding her hand out in front of her, shouted at him to wait. He shouldn't touch her like that in strange places. He apologized to her and she asked, was he really just going to touch her right? He confirmed it and then pressed the necessary places on her body. The next second, an aura burst out of her body and she asked in surprise what her body. MC explained that he activated her magic. Now she will be able to use most of the defensive magic. But this is only for a while. In order to master the magic herself, she needs to train. It will be very difficult training. She agreed and said that she is ready. And he smiling said that this is a good answer, then they should go finish off those 2. In the present, the observer of the battle shouted that this is incredible. She stopped Riko's strongest technique. Jinguji, what does this mean? He stood up from his seat and thought. A Seraphim candidate who does not have enough qualifications. This was Erika's characteristic. Then he added, but still he saw talent in her. Agito, what an amazing person. The protagonist then said that Erika's strength has been confirmed. Now it's his turn. He pulled himself up to the hilt of his sword and used 8-blade sonata. Thunder God's wrath. Lightning flashes flew in all directions, as he ran forward to attack. Rika shouted dual sword and lightning technique. Good job Agito. Rina created a magic attack and asked, Does he have time to talk? She used water spear dance. Erika responded by using a protective barrier blocking her attack. Rina thought in surprise. She blocked her attack with such a low-level spell. The next second Rico concentrated energy in both hands and shouted, "Then how about this after that?" He sent forward a double thunder spear. The protagonist asked his partner, "Is she ready?" She confirmed it and putting her hands forward, used a mirror shield reflecting the attack. Riku put his hand forward, blocked his own attack and shouted. So she only knows how to defend. I wonder, Erika thought. They could do it. Rina continued to direct her attack at the opponents and Erika, continuing to defend herself, remembered the protagonist's instruction. She should not take the full force of the attack head-on. She needs to deflect it, focus on strengthening certain areas, and then they can handle the S ranks. They can really win this duel. Meanwhile, the protagonist continued to attack the opponent, and asked what he would say about Erika now. He laughed, and said that he noticed that this weak girl suddenly became strong. He thinks that he can add more power. He used magnetic field manipulation. The protagonist and his partner were thrown to the side, and he directed the attack forward again. MC thought a support spell without direct damage his target. With these thoughts he stabbed his sword into the ground, directing the attack forward. Riku shouted at Rina that she should act. She told him not to tell her what to do, and then used crystal cage. The cage appeared in the arena. The protagonist said so they planned this from the beginning. Riku confirmed it. He wanted to fight him face to face. Just him, Rina and Erika. One-on-one without any interference from the outside. He admits Erika has grown up, but there is an insurmountable difference in experience between them. He concentrated energy in his fists and added, "Talent alone is not enough to defeat an S rank. This applies to Erika him." He replied he certainly does not intend to lose in experience. He and Erika will defeat them both. The next second, Erika pushed off the ground and swinging her weapon flew to attack. Rina dodged to the side and then used her magic attack again. Her opponent managed to use defense, and she raised her hand up and concentrating energy, used a crystal strike. A huge ice shard flew straight at Erika, and she managed to use reflective light. Then she used enchantment. Pulse Blade. A powerful stream of energy erupted from her sword and she swung it, sending an attack forward. Rina, having dodged it, thought, "I see any attacks less than full power are completely blocked." She is ruthless with her blade. She really is a good swordsman. Not an easy opponent, however. When the sword was very close to her, she declared that she was still too soft. She appeared behind her back, and then used the ability Avalanche. Erika, having turned around abruptly, used the Holy Shield again, reflecting her attack. She thought she is strong even under intense pressure. She instantly turned everything in her favor. So this is what it is, S rank. Rina asked, "Is it time to give up?" It seems that she has potential, but in the end she will not last long. Specializing in defense will not lead to victory. If she cannot deliver the decisive blow, why did she insist on such a duel? Erika remained silent and then spoke. She almost gave up. Even though she was from a family of hero descendants, she was only in a rank even with constant training. She did not see the possibility of changing her future. But then she saw someone fighting alone to protect everyone's future. She may not be that strong yet, but she also wants to grow up to protect everyone. She released her aura and declared that she would not stop trying. Rina asked. She thinks that she can change the future with just her efforts. She then stood up, pushed off the ground, concentrating the energy around herself, and noticed that she was mortally mistaken. Erika covering herself with her hands from the powerful streams of her energy, and thought that she had only concentrated her magical powers, but she could no longer move. Rina added, "Both the present and the future are built on the past. She needs to come to terms with her past, so that she can move into the future. Until now she will not allow her to move forward." With that she created a magic symbol and used Kasita's Absolute Zero. A powerful attack was aimed straight at Erika, and she thought that this was her chance. She threw her weapon and then concentrated energy in her hands, using Saint Tuarius. Rina, turning around, noticed in surprise that her technique was reflected. Erika said that she was caught. At that moment Jinguji watching this said, "Such a thick magic barrier is impenetrable now. Rina will not be able to use any magic to attack. This powerful spell turned into an impenetrable wall, to use abilities so effectively that even S-rank magic turned against the owner Agito. He awakened an outstanding talent." At that moment one of the flashes of energy headed towards Rina, but she put her hand forward. Dispelling it, she then said, "What is the point of achieving this power now after so long?" At that moment Jinguji shouted that she should stop. "The duel is over." She wanted to object, but he shouted that she should not forget about her real goal. They needed to continue their investigation into the 6 dragons. Erika would join Seraphim and help with that. She closed her eyes and said that she understood, and then raised her hand. Jinguji shouted, "The participant admits defeat. Rina leaves the battlefield." Erika said in surprise they won. And then Rina landed on the ground and congratulated her opponent. In return she thanked her, and Rina passing by added, "If only she had such power back." Then Erika clenched her fist and put it to her chest thinking. Meanwhile the protagonists' battle continued. They were surprised to hear that Rina was leaving the battlefield. Riku shouted, "Unbelievable. She really won. What kind of magic did she use?" The protagonist raised his index finger and explained, "The correct direction is important. That's all." In response, he laughed and said he's an interesting guy, but if they let the defeat of an S-rank go unanswered, they'll set a bad example. He then frowned and declared that he would attack with all his might. MC agreed with him the next second. Jinguji shouted, "This is bad Riku. He has to stop. Is he planning to destroy the guild headquarters? They've had enough of Agito's power." The protagonist asked did he hear what they were saying. His opponent laughed and shouted, "What nonsense!" Jinguji continued to call out to him, but Riku concentrated energy around himself and clenched his fists, saying this is his full power. Now he has to show him his full power. Without holding back, a huge magic symbol appeared behind him, and then he moved his hands forward, creating a magic symbol, and used divine thunder. A powerful beam of energy shot forward, and the protagonist thought that this was amazing. He didn't even expect this, fighting half-heartedly. "This can't be blocked. I'll have to use this. The secret technique of the 8-sword style." With a smirk, he confidently grabbed the hilt of his sword, and at that moment, Jinguji shouted the protective barrier was destroyed by 70%. The equipment was damaged. It is impossible to continue observing. What an idiot. A powerful thunder beam fell on the protagonist, and Riku thought, "What's the matter, Agito? Is this all he can do?" Then he asked, "Is that it?" Then he was surprised to see the protagonist in the center of the beam, and he used the secret technique of the 8-sword style. Shining eightfold return, a huge magic symbol appeared behind him. Its aura began to destroy the enemy's attack. Riku, perplexed, shouted, "It destroyed his divine thunder." Jinguji thought that this was impossible. Riku's divine thunder can even hurt a dragon. The protagonist then took a stance and offered to begin. After that he released a powerful charge of energy, and appeared behind his opponent. He looked at him in confusion, and the next second, a cut opened on his chest. He cried out in pain, and the protagonist apologized to him, adding that he couldn't hold back while fighting against him. With these words he put his sword back in its sheath. Riku began to fall down and asked, "Was that some kind of compliment?" Next time he would win. Jinguji said that. They confirmed that Riku was unable to continue the fight. The winner was Agito. He said that it was incredible. An F-rank defeated an S-rank. MC, looking at his hand, thought, "The power of the shining eightfold return has increased. Perhaps now he can use this technique." After some time they found themselves in Jinguji's office. Riku shouted at Reina, who was treating him to be gentle, and she said that he himself stubbornly wanted to leave the hospital room. Now he should endure it. If not, she will put him to sleep with cold. After that Jinguji put his hand on the table and said, "And so they demonstrated extraordinary strength. Agito, Erika. From today on they are both accepted into the ranks of Seraphim. The 6 dragons will most likely return, so they should prepare to fight and explore the gate." The protagonist said that he wanted to ask, "Is such a small team enough?" He answered that it is not a problem. Seraphim has the authority to give orders if necessary. They can mobilize or rank majors as assistants. They can even lead large squads. They should take this into account. MC said large squads. He has not really commanded small ones. Riku was surprised. Is he serious? Command is a key skill for modern mages. Rina pointed out that he should have learned this in tactics class. He replied anything can happen. Then he thought 100 years ago. He dumped all this kind of work on Yaka. Maybe now is the time to admit who he is after that. Jinguji continued. They will discuss all the details tomorrow, but for now they should rest. The protagonist asked him to wait. He would like to say something about himself. At that moment a worker shouted, "Chief, urgent report." He asked, "What's the matter?" He replied, the S-rank mage Sakagami, Misaki's unit that was sent to investigate the gate in Shinjuku, was destroyed by an unknown dragon. The people present were confused and he shouted, "Misaki is S-rank and she led a squad of A-rank mages really." They came after that. The protagonist said that he will go. Jinguji, confused, shouted, "What is he?" He replied that his allies were in danger. There was no time to hesitate and these guys seemed to be on the case. Riku, flexing his fist and smiling, added, "Of course they can't abandon Misaki." Rina added that she would go too. She wasn't heard. Riku yelled at her to shut up. Erika said that she would go too. Jinguji lowered his gaze and said that he understood. He was trusting them with this. Misaki didn't know that the 6 dragons had awakened. They had to save her. Meanwhile at the class gate, the backstreets of Shinjuku, Rubel laughed loudly and asked, "What's wrong people? He hasn't even warmed up yet." Ichikawa Kuta, a class mage, the lieutenant of Misaki's squad, hid behind a rock and said, "What a beast, he wiped out almost the entire team with one attack." Misaki, what should they do? She sat on the floor with her back against the rock, tears pooling in the corners of her eyes, and she desperately said she was sorry. She was so sorry. This was all because of her. She was an S-rank mage walking in the void. She said, the great hero of the past. The holy swordsman Agito said, "Those who put their comrades in danger don't deserve to command." That's what he said. She put 2 fingers to her temple and shouted, she would die and pay for her sins. That was the only thing left for her. Kota shouted at her to wait. He took her hand and told her not to rush. If it weren't for her teleport, not everyone would have died. Besides, didn't Lord Agito say something like that too? There is no entrance. You have to look for a way out or something like that. He shouted that. He said, in any difficult situation, there must be a way out. He got it all wrong. Then she added, 100 years ago during the Great War, the holy swordsman who had no magic had trouble detecting the enemy in a large area. Oh well. Of course the dragons had magic. And they hid using artifacts and no one could detect them. Come to think of it, the holy swordsman was so cool anyway. The humans had trouble because they couldn't detect the dragons. And then the red dragon Rubel and his minions surrounded the city and tried to attack from all sides. But he knows what happened. The holy swordsman couldn't detect the enemy with magic, but he created a sword technique called Blade Cry. Isn't that cool? He knows how rare it is for someone to create their own technique, and no one could do that thanks to this. The mages held off the dragon Rubel in a tough fight, but there were 6 dragons. So the chances were slim no matter how you fight, but 4 great heroes appeared. And their holy swordsman defeated the red dragon, all thanks to his technique. In the end he was able to cut off the dragon's head. I remember the place where it happened is considered holy ground. He thought it was some kind of creepy thing, and then she thought it was true. She was the squad leader now. She had to hold on. She had to follow the precepts of the holy swordsman. She clenched her fists and thought. The precept of the holy swordsman. Agito number 12. A true leader only becomes a true leader if he steps forward in a dangerous situation. Then she turned to Kuta and told him to help the wounded get out. She would distract him. He reached out his hand to her and grinding his teeth shouted, "Damn, you can't abandon the captain and run away." The dragon asked, "Is that it already?" He was trying to play with them so that they wouldn't die. The next second he created a magic symbol in his mouth. At that moment Misaki jumped out from behind the stone. She used the dimension sword. But as soon as her sword collided with the dragon's skin, it fell apart into several pieces. She shouted in confusion, "What Rubel?" Noticing her said, "So she is their leader." It is quite brave to go out to fight alone, but she still lacks fighting spirit. That is how to attack with that. He once again created a magic symbol in his mouth and used chaos explosion. The fire attack went forward, but the squad captain was already behind him and shouted, "Is this all he can do?" Huge. But otherwise nothing special. He flew after her and grinning shouted, "Such an obvious provocation." But okay, he released fire. Masaki, flying forward, looked down and thought that there were more casualties than she thought. It will not be easy to evacuate them, and running here. She puts them in danger and her mana is quickly running out, so it's all or nothing. She must try. Then she stopped and the dragon asked, was she tired of playing with the bait? Well, she should try to entertain him better than these small bugs. She sighed and then said, Saint Swordsman. Ajito's Testament number 3. If they want to create their own special technique, they must not be lazy and must hone it to the limit. She created a magic symbol in her hands and used a biscuit. The dragon, whose body was sucked into the abyss, shouted, did she just create a connection with the imaginary space? And she thought even non-combat specialized mages like her can win if they use magic correctly. Rubel shouted, damn. He won't let himself lose to a bug like her. The next second he disappeared. And Misaki spread her arms out to the side and said that she did it. She then sighed and sank to the ground. Kuta ran up to her and called out to her. She was surprised, Kuta and the others too. Didn't she order him to evacuate? He said that it was impossible. He couldn't abandon his captain. Plus she only knows how to manipulate space, so he then turned around and asked, where is the dragon? She placed her hands on her waist and smiled, saying that she used her special technique, put it all on the line, and somehow she succeeded. He was surprised, right? As expected of a captain, she laughed awkwardly and he asked, but what kind of dragon was that anyway? She thought, that's right. Huge magic power and purple scales, just like the red dragon Rubel, one of the 6 dragons that humanity fought 100 years ago. No, it can't be. After all, the holy swordsman killed him. The next second Kuta, perplexed, asked who it was. Reinforcements from the guild. The captain was surprised, and at that moment Rubel stood behind her in human form. He again used the ability Chaos Explosion, sending fire attacks forward. The captain fell to her early comrades with the last of her strength. She said that this can't be. The dragon said, damn Vitra. Only because he needed information. He made him, Rubel, pretend that he lost Masaki. Tried to get to her feet with trembling hands, and shouted that she knew it. He was surprised she knew him. But great, she didn't have to explain. After that, he stepped on her back and told her to answer him one question. Where is the holy swordsman Ajito? She looked at him in surprise and he added, one of his minions sent him a thought image before his death, that the same Ajito was reborn. She thought in bewilderment. Reborn Vegito. Rubel said she should tell him everything she knows, and he will probably let her go. She replied, how unfortunate she doesn't know anything about it, although it's not true. Even if she knew, she wouldn't tell him. He stepped on her head and smirked. She should stop acting tough. Sprawled on the ground, small bugs should listen. She said, the testament of the holy swordsman Ajito number 171, when the world is engulfed in darkness, he will come and defeat it. If the holy swordsman Ajito was really reborn, she will believe and wait for him. The dragon pressed his foot harder on her and asked, is that so? He thought that there was still a chance that she was hiding something. In that case, he raised his hand above himself, creating a magic symbol. He used an ability called Scarlet Rock. He said that this was her last chance. She must tell everything she knew. She closed her eyes and screamed. She already said she won't say anything even if she had to die. He was surprised even so. Well, then he'll just kill and start with her comrades. After that he pointed the rock at the injured squad members. And the captain shouted, Kuta, guys. The dragon asked what she will do now. She turned to him and was about to use the ability, but Rubel, with a wave of his fingers, was destroyed her attack and shouted that it won't work. Time is up. Looks like her beloved swordsman Saint didn't come to save her, right? She sighed and then stretched out her hand, thinking, Lord Saint Swordsman, if he really was reborn, please let him come and deal with him. A drop of tears fell from her face, And at that moment, the protagonist appeared using an ability called Eight-Blade Sonata, a dimension-splitting strike. The people present were surprised and he said, "Ruble, how about cutting off his head again?" He smirked Yatsurugi. 100 years ago, the war between humanity and the six dragons. The holy swordsman Agito versus the red dragon. Ruble, the protagonist, declared to the red dragon that his end had come. The protagonist used the eight sword style, a dimension-splitting strike, crushing his enemy. Ruble said that he would never forget this humiliation. He swears that he will kill him in the present. MC said that she had better not move. Then Agito used the eight sword style, the six-star strike. There was a deafening explosion and Misaki thought, clutching her head with her hands, was that really an attack with six elements at once? This is the unique finishing technique of the holy swordsman. The six-star strike. She can't believe it. Could this man really be the legendary holy swordsman Agito? After a while, Ruble said with a laugh that his doubts are now cleared. His technique and killing intent, he will recognize it. They finally met him. He used his ability and shouted that he must die with his allies. The red dragon in the form of a man conjured a firestorm. She cried out in concern, turning to her allies. At the command, the protagonist shouted Yumi's name and she used magic, shining holy shield at this time. Rina protected the surprised Misaki and asked if she was okay. She said that she came to them. And who is this? Rina said that now is not the time for introductions. She should retreat with her subordinates. Ruble shouted, grinning evilly, that they are weak. He has no business with anyone except Vegito. He used his ability to summon fire monsters to the battlefield. The protagonist slew one of the fire creatures with his sword, and shouted that his opponent is him. Ruble, laughing evilly, noted that he decided to clean up the trash first. MC used a magic device and asked, contacting Riku, what is the situation at the entrance? Riku shouted, continuing to fight the monsters, that he did not understand what was going on at all. Suddenly, out of nowhere, many monsters appeared. He said irritably, grinding his teeth, that it was a curse. Why was he doing such a boring job as guarding the territory? Agito noticed that he was injured. What other options could there be? Riku screamed in anger and said, grabbing the monsters with his hands and calling him an idiot, that he was injured because of him. Then he used magic, a super powerful electric shocker named after him. Riku said that he agreed to clear everything here from monsters. He can take out Misaki and the others. The protagonist noted, turning to Reina and Yumi, that they heard him. It is dangerous here now, they must take the wounded out of here. Reina indignantly said that she did not like to leave him here alone. However, they have no other choice. After a while, Misaki asked, is he sure he can handle it alone? At that moment, Ruble used magic, scorching flame, bringing down a barrage of fireballs at Agito. The protagonist calmly blocked the enemy's attack, and said that he would be fine. She needed to trust him. She said that she would try her best. They began to run away from there and Misaki shouted, turning to the holy sword, that she was asking him to try his best. The protagonist simply waved his hand at her, and she looked at him with admiration. Then Misaki said that he paid attention to her. Then they looked at each other. Ruble used explosive inferno. Burning flash. MC used the eight sword style, eight scarlet clouds. Because of their attack, the surroundings began to collapse. He shouted that it was finally a one-on-one fight. Agito declared that these were his words. They crossed their weapons. And Ruble shouted that he was glad to hear it. Defeating him when he was not fighting at full strength would be boring. Only by killing him at the peak of his power can he take his revenge. The protagonist jumped back, and his enemy took advantage of this by using magic, hellish inferno formation. At that moment, a magic circle appeared under the protagonist's feet, which brought down pillars of flame. MC decided to dodge the blow, but Ruble shouted, using his abilities, that he would not let him dodge the blow. After Agito found himself under the enemy's attack, and thought that this enemy had created several high-level spells, without pronouncing them out loud. The protagonist blocked the enemy's magic, and thought that this was not the same Ruble that was 100 years ago. The blessing of the divine dragon is a very dangerous thing. A deafening explosion was heard. And then the protagonist used the secret technique of the eight-sword style. Akatsuki Hajime. MC asked, having survived the enemy's attack, is this really all he can do? Ruble stared at him in surprise as Agito prepared to strike him. The protagonist made a lightning dash forward, using the 8-blade style. 6-star strike. He parried the blow, and fought with gritted teeth that his strength was impressive, after which they exchanged a series of blows and dodges. After a while Ruble used an explosive ball of light, and then used magic scorching sphere. A deafening explosion of flames was heard. After reincarnation Ruble's abilities have greatly increased. At this point he is undoubtedly one of the strongest in the world. However, the strength of the reincarnated holy swordsman, Agito, was noticeably superior to Ruble. MC dealt a critical blow to the opponent with his sword, using the 8-blade style Scarlet Blade. Ruble fought in surprise. Why did the fire technique harm him? Then he shouted as he rushed to attack that he cursed him. Ruble was attacking with a series of blows and shouted, as Agito blocked the blows with his sword, saying that he was underestimating his current strength. He used his abilities and shouted that this was the end of his life. Riku suddenly appeared and used magic divine thunder. He asked angrily, calling the enemy trash. How dare he hurt his allies? Ruble shouted after the dust cleared that he was a pathetic worm. He suddenly appeared behind him preparing to strike. He thought in shock that this enemy was very fast. At the last moment, the protagonist blocked the blow of the red dragon in human form. The protagonist said that he must not be distracted. His opponent is him. Has he already forgotten that? Ruble used attack magic and shouted that he must endure this. MC used his abilities to damage the opponent. Suddenly the enemy's body began to be covered in ice. He shouted until he froze completely that he was trash. Agito finished using the 8-blade style ability, Ice Flash, putting his sword back in its sheath. After the protagonist asked, "Is Misaki's squad okay?" Rika said that they evacuated, only they remained more precisely. He is here alone having fun. He thanked him for his help. However, is this guy really one of the 6 dragons? The protagonist noted that he really does look like a human. However, there can be no doubt he really is a dragon. More precisely, this is the red dragon Ruble, who was defeated in the Great War 100 years ago. He noted that it seems that this is the dragon that was destroyed by the holy swordsman Agito. MC said that this is exactly it. Apparently Ruble received a human form after reincarnation. Riku thoughtfully said that this is amazing. However, this dragon, it seems, called him a holy sword. And he surprisingly knows the history of the war, and everything related to the 6 dragons well. Agito's expression changed, and hesitantly said that it would take a long time to explain. By the way, how are his wounds? He shouted that that was not the issue now. The protagonist asked, did he notice that the weather was wonderful right now, right? Riku shouted in irritation, grabbing his neck with his hands, that they were now inside the gate. He should stop trying to change the subject. The protagonist shouted that he should stop too already. He shouted, is he hiding something? He must tell about it right now. The MC said that he should be careful and not overexert himself, because he was injured. Rika shouted in anger, and who injured him will he remind him? Although it happened during a duel, it does not cancel his guilt. Agito thought that he was having difficulty breathing. Maybe he should tell him about himself. Suddenly Ruble said, breaking free from captivity, that he now understands he has reached the limit of his strength. With his current level he won't be able to defeat him. Riku noted that the battle is not over yet. Agito said that he was right. They can't relax, the enemy still has strength to fight. He said that 100 years ago he learned that humans are useless, inferior creatures. Ruble used his powers and said that, however, there is an exception, and that is magic manipulation. They are superior to dragons in this. The protagonist asked what was going on. Riku noted with a smile that it was amazing. He transformed and said with a smirk that his demonic form was born from the enormous, magical power of a dragon, combined with a human's ability to manipulate magic. The protagonist looked at his enemy with tension, and thought that the enemy's strength surpassed even the black dragon, Vitra, whom he fought 100 years ago. After a while Ruble asked, perhaps you wanted to know why he did not immediately assume this form. Then he used his powers and a deafening explosion was heard. Ruble said the reason for this was simple. If he destroyed him with one blow, it would be too boring. The protagonist noted that it was time for them to begin. MC deftly dodged the enemy's blow and thought that he had become faster. Ruble struck at him and shouted, what's wrong? Is this all he can do? Agito blocked the blow with his sword and stated, using his ability, that he has a rather interesting demonic form. He shouted while smirking. Does he still think he is the strongest? Riku shouted, calling him a lizard. And using his lightning magic that he should not ignore him, Rubal dodged the ultimate lightning strike and remarked, while rushing at him, that weak people should not interfere in this battle. He gritted his teeth and grabbed him with his hand. Afterwards he thought that his wound had opened. However, it does not matter. He is a Seraphim rookie. Remembered the past where he was asked what kind of special group. He declared that he would gather the best mages together, a group of S-rank mages, and the group would be called Seraphim. Although it had been 100 years since the war, the gates and monsters had not gone away, even after the Holy Swordsman and the 4 heroes had dealt with 6 dragons. People were still dying. He was tired of this, so he created something that everyone could rely on, the strongest group at this time. Rika declared that a few wounds would not stop him. He used magic and ultra-powerful discharge of his own. Rika shouted, how could he do this? The protagonist tried to warn him. Rubal rushed at him and dealt critical damage, and then threw him into the wall with a powerful blow. The protagonist asked if he was okay. He said with difficulty that he can still continue to fight. He wants to protect the peace that the Holy Swordsman and the 4 great heroes have achieved. Riku declared before losing consciousness that they will protect this peace. Rubal noticed that he finally got rid of a weak enemy. He even sympathized with him a little. He only had weak people among his allies. MC used the 8-sword style Nightfang of Light. Rubal used defensive magic to block this blow. After a while a beam of energy pierced the sky. Rubal shouted, so he can cut even space. Now he was much more interested. He made a series of blows which Agito successfully blocked. After that Rubal used magic separating firestorm. The protagonist dodged and used the 8-blade style dance of ghostly swords. At that moment multiple blades pierced his enemy. The protagonist decided to deliver the finishing blow to the enemy. Rubal noted that he uses the same techniques with his strength and speed. It could work against weak people. However, it is useless against him. After that he used magic dance of hellfire. MC was barely dodging the enemy's attack and gritted his teeth. Suddenly his enemy dealt direct damage to him, causing him to fall down with a crash. Agito thought while breathing heavily. So the technique Akatsuki Hajime is no longer enough, right? Rubal shouted that he was finished. He shouted, using his abilities, that the current him is stronger than him. A deafening explosion of magic was heard. The infernal roar of a fire dragon. Rubal declared with a laugh that he finally did it. He was able to defeat this scum. He must continue to become stronger. He is the king of this planet. Suddenly, to his surprise, a huge pillar of energy appeared. He shouted that this is impossible. Could he really survive his attack? The protagonist noted that he had planned this 100 years ago. He had been improving and honing the technique that surpasses Akatsuki Hajime, and with this body he will be able to use it. The protagonist declared that this was the ultimate technique of the 8-blades style. The Shining Eightfold Return. After a while, the reporter's assistant said that it was time for them to go home. Iri Shirori, the newspaper reporter, said that she was against it. They hadn't found the golden Tsuchinoko yet. She wouldn't go home until they got exclusive photos. She asked tiredly, were all reporters like this? Suddenly a strong gust of wind arose, almost blowing them away. She already shouted, could this be a sign that the golden Tsuchinoko had appeared? They had to go forward. She hurriedly walked forward, muttering under her breath, golden Tsuchinoko. The reporter's assistant shouted, where is she going? Then she happily declared that they were here. Shirori looked at the figures in the sky in shock. At this distance it was hard to see anything, even with the camera zoomed in all the way, but she still managed to do it. She saw powerful magic that tore apart space itself, and the one who could shake the mighty enemy with one blow of his sword. The heroic figure of a silver-haired youth. At that moment the protagonist decided to use the 8-click style, Shining Eightfold Return. Rubal asked if he really expected to win. With an improved version of the same old technique, he used magic dance of hellfire rushing at him. The protagonist deftly dodged a series of blows. Rubal gritted his teeth in irritation, trying to reach him with his blow. He thought, why can't he hit him? This is simply impossible. He is on par with his demonic form, although he even surpasses him. MC used the 8-blade style whirlwind strike, which multiplied the wind blades. Ruble gritted his teeth trying to hold back his blow, then he shouted rushing at him that he is trash. Numerous explosions were heard in the sky, but Agito appeared behind him preparing to swing his sword for a blow. The protagonist used the thunder god magic purple lightning, striking his enemy, and then the protagonist used lightning flash to deal a critical blow to the opponent. MC decided to use magic divine lightning to deal the decisive blow. Ruble screamed in pain, falling from the sky to the ground with a roar. Agito knew that his body had no magical power at all. The protagonist realized this during the battle with Riku. However, the less magic, the stronger the technique. Akatsuki Hajime, therefore, his body completely devoid of magic, has a hidden potential that he could not imagine before, and the proof of this can be seen right now. A technique superior to Akatsuki Hajime, and capable of killing even a demon. Shining eightfold return. The protagonist dealt the decisive blow to his enemy, and Ruble shouted that he cursed him. After which he declared that he does not give up. This is his demonic form. There is no way he could die in a place like this. Ruble used the magic the Red Dragon's Roar, unleashing all his power against him. MC thought that he would not repeat his mistakes with this power. This time he would save the world. Agito used his ability and declared that this was his end. Their magic power met crushing space. Ruble shouted that he would not lose. He shouted before his strike that he cursed him. The protagonist sheathed his sword and said that he was saying goodbye to Ruble, as night fell on the bus. Shirori said with a grin that this was incredible. Today she saw something extraordinary. This will be a real exclusive. On the laptop monitor screen was Agito's face, whose body was covered in a powerful aura. The day after the battle with the Red Dragon, Ruble at the headquarters of the Tokyo Magic Guild, Misaki reported that this was exactly how it happened. It was a report on the encounter with the Red Dragon. Ruble Jinguji noted that this meant that the enemy's main force had finally begun to act. He thanked her for her service. She awkwardly said, saluting with her hand, that it was no problem for her. Riku pointed out that it was actually all thanks to Agito. He didn't participate in the second half of the battle. He said to Agito that he wanted to ask him something. Screens appeared in front of them recording the battle with the Red Dragon in its demonic form. Yumi asked in surprise, was that Agito on the news? The protagonist noted that he felt a presence in the distance. During the battle, however, that person had no intention of interfering, so he didn't pay attention to it. Rina said that the S-rank heroes of the Magic Guild are also used as poster figures. However, Agito has become quite a topic of discussion. It doesn't seem like a big deal. Jinguji stated that he wanted to say it bluntly. His existence is disrupting the world order. His power surpasses that of the S-rank magicians, and he easily awakened Yumi's talent. They received reports that he might be related to the Red Dragon Ruble. Who is he? Riku thought that Jinguji was right. Agito's sudden appearance and power were inexplicable. Rina thought that without magic, being on par with an S rank is usually impossible. Misaki thought with her eyes closed that he was worried about the Holy Swordsman. The protagonist said that he could finally say it. He is the reincarnated Saint Swordsman Agito. They looked at him dumbfounded. Protagonist said that during the war 100 years ago, he and the Black Dragon Vitra killed each other. He should have died. MC remembered his past, and thought that he didn't know why he was reincarnated. But this was a wonderful opportunity for him. Jinguji shouted in shock, so he was saying that his soul was transported 100 years ago and was reborn in the present. Riku said through gritted teeth that he now understood where his power came from. Reina said that she now understood where he got that strange feeling from. Agito said that he didn't know why he was reborn, but the strange events at the gate and the sudden increase in monsters. Most likely, it was because the 6 dragons were trying to revive Ragnar. If they didn't do anything, they would be in for a disaster. So he asked them to lend him their power. Jinguji remarked that he thought his words could be trusted. The Holy Swordsman could count on them. Riku said, putting his arm around his shoulder, that they should become friends. Rina remarked that he might not expect special treatment from her, but she respected him. Yumi thought that she felt relieved, but she wanted to meet her long-dead relative. Masaki cried and shouted that he was real. He was the legendary Saint Swordsman Ajito. She had read all the documents and materials about the Saint Swordsman, and never expected that she would be able to meet him in person. Plus she got to know him so closely. Riku mocking the girl. Did not let her touch the Saint Swordsman. Misaki got angry and tried to use her spatial magic, but Rina used her magic and said that they needed to stop. The protagonist remarked that he would like to discuss everything now, but there was another matter. Do they have good swords? The protagonist took out his sword, and said that he was afraid that his sword would not withstand the upcoming battle. Yumi was surprised, and said that his sword was made from the latest GMA model. They used the strongest steel, right? GMA Gunners Magitech Arms, the largest factory for the production of sword staves, armor and various magical tools. Their developments use the latest achievements of science and magic. The headquarters are in the United States. MC asked in confusion, so this is the best sword of the times? She said that it is. Ajito said in disappointment that he lacks Dosetsu Suikane. They looked at him in shock. Misaki asked, apologizing to the holy sword, did he just mention Dosetsu? The protagonist pointed out that it was the name of a great swordsmith. In his time he was a good guy. Just very stubborn. She indignantly shouted that she knew it. Dosetsu was a legendary swordsmith who was rumored to have forged a sword for the holy swordsman Ajito. His only goal was to create a sword that could cut through even a god. He was said to have a rude and unfriendly personality, and rarely made weapons for others. But the great swordsman Saint was able to break through to Dosetsu's heart, and with his famous sword Masamune Ajito he destroyed the water dragon Karura in one blow. Seeing this, the blacksmith's character softened, and after the war, he began working for the guild. Riku asked, activating his lightning magic, if he should turn it off. Rina said that she would not mind. She said that, well, there is someone, it is the heir of the legendary blacksmith Dosetsu. Her name is Makoto Tsukane. She is the great-grandchild of Dosetsu, who received the title of master at 18 years old. All they need is to ask her to forge a sword for him. MC asked where they should look for her. Riku sighed heavily and said that she is in purgatory. Ajito asked what kind of place it is. He said that it is an extremely dangerous gate, where high-quality magical ore can be found. Rumor has it that Makoto lives in this gate to fulfill Dosetsu's dream, and forge the greatest sword. Protagonist smiled and thought that she's very similar to her ancestor. Blacksmiths are probably all weird. The protagonist said he understood. Then he would soon be heading to that purgatory. Yumi asked if he would go there alone. The MC said they didn't know where the dragons would appear next. Rina said they needed to keep as many forces as possible on standby. Ajito thought he shouldn't forget about that place, just before Rubel's attack. At the North American branch of the Magic Guild, Shin said that that was all for today. He was returning to Japan. The people thanked him loudly. He thought that information had been sent through the Seraphim leadership's personal communications that the holy swordsman, Ajito, had been reincarnated. In the present he was currently a member of Seraphim. Suddenly the telesphere, the magic tool that Ajito and the four great heroes used during the Dragon War 100 years ago, lit up on his neck. They were currently in the hands of the four heroes' descendants. Shin thought in shock that this couldn't be true. A magic window appeared with the information that this is a message to his dear friends and their descendants. The world is in danger again if they receive this message. Then he politely asks them to lend him their power. This message was sent by Ajito. He broke the telesphere with his fingers, and stated that he will be the one to protect this world. He is a descendant of one of the four great heroes. After some time at the S-rank gate purgatory, on the third underground level, the protagonist noted that it means that here is Makoto, with the profession of a blacksmith. Suddenly Shin appeared on his way and asked, calling him by name, what is he doing here? The protagonist asked who he is. After which he remembered the past and one of the four great heroes. He stated, introducing himself, that he is the commander of the Special Squad Seraphim, and also a descendant of Yakido. One of the four heroes. MC thought with a smile that he immediately recognized him as a descendant of Yakido. Shin noted that he did not expect to meet him in such a place. He was just going to take his weapon back for Makoto. Ajito thought he had contacted everyone, but there was no response. He had almost lost hope that there were any descendants of the heroes left. The protagonist asked, does that mean he knows him? He said that he had contacted Jinguji. He had heard the story of Ruble. The protagonist remarked that he had also come to see Makoto. Then MC extended his hand and said with a smile, calling him by name, that he was asking him to lend him his power. If they stick together they can resolve this crisis. Shin's expression changed and then slapped his hand. He remarked that if he had the chance, he wanted to speak up. Shin irritably stated that he was not going to deal with him. Ajito asked in surprise why was he saying that. Didn't he know that the 6 dragons had been reborn? If they fought each other, their defeat was inevitable. He pointed his weapon at him and stated that he did not think there was a place for the heroes of the past. Now he will be the one who will protect this world. They exchanged glances and then the unknown person used magic. Diamond Rain. They deftly used their weapons, repelling the enemy's attack. The unknown person noted that he expected that he would destroy them with this attack, however. It turned out that the holy swordsman and commander, Seraphim himself, was here. The protagonist turned around and thought that he recognized such magic. Gildiga Vizrayan, the Earth Dragon, said that otherwise this world would become completely boring. The protagonist shouted his name and thought that he was the second of the 6 dragons. He used his abilities to create an army of golems. Gildiga said that this was a wonderful reunion. They will stay here forever. Shin's face changed and said that he could not expect this. However, this will save him the trouble of finding one of the dragons. He got into a fighting stance and said that this is excellent. He will prove that they no longer need the holy swordsman. Shin used the Kagura family's Kumogakudo and unleashed a powerful blow on the Earth Dragon. He then sighed in surprise as he was unharmed. After taking a direct hit, he thought that there wasn't even a scratch left on him. MC used his ability and shouted that he shouldn't attack directly. Ajito used his technique, Shining Eightfold Return, and slashed his sword at his enemy. Gildiga stated as the sword shattered that it was his secret technique that killed Ruble. However, it was too weak. Ajito stared at him in surprise as he held the broken sword. He said that his body had become much more durable this time. Shin pointed his sword at the dragon, but at that moment it used a hellish strike, attacking the protagonist's stomach with a swift attack. With such force he flew back, and Shin, turning around, thought he withstood the attack of the holy swordsman. That move just now, it was precise and sharp, as the legend said. But still it reached the target and he broke the sword. Or else the next second, the stones lying next to him began to connect, forming stone golems. Gildiga picked up a piece of ore and said that this is not bad. It is filled with magic. His skill is based on ore. The darker it is, the more magic it can store, strengthening it at this point. He can surpass the demonic form of Ruble. Even these stone golems, each of them is not inferior in strength to the lieutenant of dragons. Then he told not to rush. Several golems headed straight for Shin. He dodged the monster's attacks and thought that he was stalling for time. What was he planning at that moment? Several golems extended their huge hands and jumped up to attack. Shin jumped aside, then asked these golems, will it endure if it is smashed into pieces? Then he released a powerful energy and used a technique called the spear art. Kagura Ajura attacking all the golems around. The next second, they crumbled into many small pieces and fell to the ground. But the next moment they began to rise again, and Shin clicked his tongue in irritation. At that moment an explosion was heard behind him from the stones, flying in different directions. The protagonist came out. The others looked at him. His eyes were burning with rage. He approached Shin when he said that he was only in the way, and he should go a holy swordsman without a sword. After that the protagonist took off his jacket and, loosening his tie, began to roll up his sleeves. He concentrated the energy in his fists, and used the Yatsurski boxing technique. Punch after punch he used a storm of 2 fists. The others thought in surprise boxing. He said that all this time he fought without magic. They think that he is helpless without a sword. After that the golems collapsed, falling to the ground. Shin, looking at this, thought that he was not joking. He looked at the energy concentrated in his fist, and said that he was using the same principles as when fighting with a sword. transferring it to attacks with bare hands. The secret of golem regeneration is the magic of Gildiga, surrounding it with a thin layer of armor. You need to aim not at the golems themselves, but at this magic until it itself falls apart. The dragon said that he says it as if it will be easy, but without a sword it will be difficult for him to do it. After that the protagonist punched and said, "The next blow will crush him." Shin thought, "I see." After that he swung his weapon and said, "If you understand the principle, then everything should be simple." He used the spear art Kagura, swinging the weapon again, and said Tenran. Several cloths of energy swirled around, destroying the golems around him. Gildiga said he destroyed his cute golems. At that moment the protagonist ran up to him and swung his fist, attacking him in the stomach. The dragon flew back, stopping on the ground. Then he leveled out and said that he did not want to use this, because the duration is short. The next second his body began to be covered in stone. Then it was covered with cracks. And Gildiga appeared from there in his demonic form. He added that it seems he has no choice. The others thought in surprise. Demonic form. He pushed off the ground and ran to attack the protagonist, but he swung his fist and attacked him. At that moment the dragon used super hardness. He blocked his attack. Shin jumped up and used the spear art Kagura. Dragon Slayer powerful energy burst out from his spear, falling on the dragon. Then it landed on its back, but he used super hardness again. After that he jumped back. The protagonist thought that his ability was better than during the war. Shin thought that it was not only about defense. Gildiga directed his fist forward using the attack Hell Punch. After that he pushed off the ground and approaching. Shin used limit and concentrated, trying to withstand this attack. After that he spread his arms to the sides, dissolving it. Shin shouted, "Damn!" He jumped off the ground, dodging the blow. The next second a volcano eruption began behind him. Lava flew in all directions. Gildiga said that he will repeat it again. Now he has become much stronger. He raised his hand, charging the golems with additional energy, and said that he was just trying to buy some time, but it would be good to finish them off here and now. The protagonist noticed that he had strengthened the golems. The dragon then created a magic symbol in front of him, and used an attack called Enhanced Diamond Rain. Many diamonds fell from the sky and MC trying to attack. The golems thought that he was attacking with both magic and golems, but even in demonic form the core remained there. And if he can penetrate the armor after that, he shouted Shin. He must choose the right moment and concentrate his attacks on one point and penetrate Gilda's armor. He was also fighting the golems at that moment, and shouted that he should shut up. He said that he would be the one to protect the world. He probably never realized the weight that was on his shoulders. With it he pierced the dragon's chest with his spear. Not long ago, 12-year-old Shin asked his great-grandfather if he had no wishes. Yakido looked at him and wondered why he did this. All of a sudden he replied, "Great-grandfather, he thinks he should be more famous today at school. Not long ago at school the teacher told him, and that's how the 6 dragons were defeated. By the holy swordsman and the 4 great heroes. She was sure that they all knew. But one of the 4 heroes, Yakido, was Shin's great-grandfather. He smiled when he heard this. At which point his classmates chuckled. What were the 4 heroes? They were just the holy swordsman's companions, right? After all, the one who defeated the strongest black dragon was the holy swordsman. They say that the first guild master quickly resigned. What skill? Shin got angry and started a fight. The teacher asked him to stop. Yakido told his great-grandson that there was no need to fight, and Shin raised his index finger and added that even after the war, great-grandfather continued to fight, and worked hard to strengthen the guild. But he gave up the position of the guild leader, passing it on to his student. He replied that as a mage, he was content with the position of mentor. Shin asked why hadn't he ever thought he wanted to be a famous hero. He replied that it was true. There was a time when he revered heroes, but Shin now they don't need heroes, but young people who are ready to follow in their footsteps. He can entrust the guild to a promising student, talented children, and he is very proud of all of them. Shin called him and Yakido, patting his head, told him to remember that it is not the title of a hero that is important, but what he wants to protect, the world that they all fought for. He wants to continue to protect it. 5 years later Shin was looking at his great-grandfather's photo while attending the funeral. He closed his eyes and thought that he should rest in peace. His ideals. He was pulled out of his thoughts by the voices that were discussing, but still of course. He can't say it out loud, but he was a little dim until the very end. Shin opened his eyes in surprise and continued listening. They were talking right. It was strange to hear that one of the four heroes ended up being a mere mentor in the guild. What was he trying to achieve? And the current head of the Kagura family is only in a rank, so that family is finished. But the gates and monsters still remain, Shin thought in annoyance. What did he say? The discussion continued. If only the Holy Swordsman was in charge of everything. The Holy Swordsman. All these heroes are nothing compared to the Holy Swordsman. If only the Holy Swordsman remained alive. He frowned and thought. Why are they still chatting about that Holy Swordsman? If he was to be praised for sacrificing his life for the sake of peace, then those who fought alongside him and then maintained the peace they had achieved were no less worthy of admiration. And grandfather, this was his life. What was it all for at that moment? His father came up to him from behind, and said that this was the reality. Peace for them was something to be achieved, not something to be defended. And they also took it for granted. With his grandfather's death, the influence of the Kajira family had weakened even more, and his ideals would eventually be buried and forgotten. He then placed his hands on his son's shoulders, and shouted that he must do it. He had no talent, but he could do it. He must become a hero who would surpass the swordsman saint. He must restore the glory of the Kagura family. In this way he would preserve his great-grandfather's legacy. He lowered his head and said that he could leave it to him. He would definitely achieve it. In the present he continued to attack the golems with his weapon. He thought 4 years after that day. He desperately pressed forward. No matter what the task, he crushed even the strongest enemies. To revive the Kagura family. And to preserve the legacy of his great-grandfather, the one who will protect this world. He will be at that moment. The protagonist called out to him and shouted from above. Many golems were falling towards him from the sky. He clicked his tongue in irritation. And then sent several powerful attacks straight up, destroying the golems before they could hit the ground. Gilda appeared from the rising dust, asking if he had fallen asleep in the middle of the fight. Apparently he was feeling comfortable. Shin thought he had mixed up with his fighters. At that moment the dragon's fist was approaching him, but the protagonist stopped it. Stood in front of him, crossing his arms over his chest, blocking the dragon's attack. Gilda grabbed his hand and he cried out in pain, then concentrated energy into his fist. He attacked the dragon in the chest with such force that it flew far back. The protagonist held his chest and breathed heavily. Shin, looking at him, said, "Holy Swordsman, why?" He asked why he hates him. The weight on his shoulders. He doesn't know what it's like. But now he's asking him to lend him his power. He wants to protect the world they all fought for. Shin frowned, remembering his great-grandfather's words. At that moment the dragon stood up and noticed a good hit. But it seems that this is his limit. Without a sword to save the world, he still lacks something. The protagonist, angry, gritted his teeth, and Shin said that he will not hold back. He should not complain if he gets hit. After that, he grabbed the spear more confidently and, looking at the protagonist, said that they will choose the time and break through his armor together. The protagonist closed his eyes and agreed with him. After that he concentrated energy in his fists, and said that he can leave it to him. Gilda said how cute. But in the end there will only be one winner. They were ready to attack. The next second they ran forward. Hitting the dragon, he tried to respond to their attacks. Then MC thought that he needed to speed up. Shin thought and finish everything with one attack. The dragon thought that it was not bad. They began to synchronize their movements. But the next second, huge hands burst out of his back and grabbed the hunters. He said that all their attempts did not matter, as long as he could stop them. After that he used the ability Hell Fist Ultra. He slammed his fists against each other, and then looked forward in surprise, not seeing them in his fists. At that moment Shin used a mirage of a double. The protagonist, dodging to the side, thanked him. He replied that he was just paying off a debt. At that moment the protagonist used the Akatsuki boxing technique. Several copies of him appeared, and he used Blooming Inferno. while the dragon was trying to cover itself from the blows, to the doubles. The protagonist thought that it looked like a random hail of blows, but in fact it was aimed precisely at important points. If he was distracted by their defense, his core the next second, he struck the dragon in the head, from which he raised its shin was already flying at him from above, and used the art of the spear Kajira. He flew down quickly, put his weapon in front of him, and used the technique of the dragon slayer. The dragon thought that this was a real blow. Then he said, but unfortunately, these are not his only hands. The hands that appeared from his back wall rushed straight to Shin's attack. The next second, MC pushed off the ground with powerful blows and broke Gildiga's arms. Smiling, he said that they still have the advantage. A powerful blow hit the dragon right in the chest. He frowned and then fell to the ground. The hunters jumped to the side. The protagonist thought even this did not knock him down. Shin, running forward, thought, if there is only one way. Keep hitting him until he falls. After that, they approached Gildiga again and began to strike after strike, and he just chuckled and said how fun it was. After that he declared that this was the last round they will begin. A huge magic symbol appeared under him, and the entire area around him was covered in small, erupting volcanoes. He said, if it works, victory is his. If he endures and keeps the core, then they are finished with that. He pushed off the ground and rising into the air, clenched his fists. He used the absolute earth-spewing cannon. The protagonist was surprised while his partner told him to stay behind. It doesn't matter whether he acknowledges it or not, just the ideals of the person he respected the most. He does not want it to go to waste. With that he prepared to attack and use the spear. Art Kajira, a secret technique. Rakshas's piercing spear. A stream of powerful fire rushed towards him, but the spear, although covered with cracks, flew further. The dragon said, what a shame. Shin replied that he should not rush to conclusions. Then he was surprised and thought, where is Agito at that moment? The protagonist was already behind him, and concentrating energy in his fist, shouted that he was here. He used the boxing technique Yatsursuji, a secret move, dragon slaying palm. The most powerful energy burst out of his fist. Everything around was covered in smoke. Gildiga, standing with his last strength, said, what a pity, just a little more. There was a gaping hole in his chest, and he said that he wanted to have fun a little more. After that he fell to the ground. The hunters, breathing heavily, rejoiced in their victory. Then MC approached the dragon and asked why he came here. What is his purpose? Shin thought he was just buying time, but in the middle of the fight, he started fighting as if he had already won. If he had only wanted to delay them, he could have lasted longer. He replied, hot springs. That's how it works. Magma heats up an underground river. It bursts to the surface. There is a powerful force hidden underground. Shin was surprised. What was he even talking about? He replied, their base. The place where the headquarters of the Magic Guild is located, is filled with magic down there deep underground. What do they think sleeps there instead of magma? They looked at him in surprise, and the protagonist, remembering the dragon's words, thought, it can't be. He shouted, is Ragma sleeping there? Shin shouted. The divine dragon the leader spoke of. He thought he heard that it was done to strengthen the base's defense. They chose the place with the highest concentration of mana. At that moment a guild employee contacted him and shouted, Vice Captain, can he hear him? This is the Mage Guild HQ. They are under attack. 4 of the 6 dragons are attacking them at the same time. Gildiga added, the great swordsman, Saint and commander of Seraphim, is here. He had the advantage in this place, so he was the best fit for this task. MC gritted his teeth and thought, what a precise calculation. They were being watched from the very beginning. Then the dragon added, well, maybe they should hurry back. If they don't make it, they'll be finished. At that moment, the ground beneath him cracked and he fell down straight into the lava. He added, for the first time in 100 years, he had a good fight. The protagonist, punching his legs, shouted, damn, if they don't hurry, everyone will be in danger. But his fists, he's at the limit. He thought that the Shui Cane Forge is very close. He needs a weapon, any kind. Then he looked at his partner and shouted, if the dragons attack all at once, They won't last long, we need to hurry. He replied that he shouldn't worry. He wasn't the only Seraphim member who returned to the base, after hearing about the 6 dragons. Those guys should be there a few minutes earlier, at the gate of the Magic Guild headquarters. The worker asked his partner. Did he hear about the red dragon Ruble? He confirmed it, the 6 dragons were reborn. What will happen next? He thinks everything is fine. They say that Kagura from Seraphim returned to Japan. The guild member was surprised. So he came back from America. His partner confirmed it, not only him, but the other Seraphim members as well. He shrugged and added, so they don't have to do anything. At that moment Arkifa, one of the 6 dragons, the destructive storm, approached them and asked. So this is the Magic Guild headquarters. Gildiga is holding the holy swordsman Vitra underground, so he's the one to deal with this. The worker put his hand forward and shouted, "Hey him, outsiders are not allowed to enter the guild. The boy, if he wants a tour, must come with his parents." But before he could finish speaking, his body was covered in cuts. His partner cried out in confusion. The dragon said, "Pathetic humans. They shouldn't treat him like a child." He looked at his hands and said, "All the problems are because of this appearance. Gildiga looks like an adult." At that moment, the worker fell to the ground in fear and shouted at the gate, "Enemy attack. They are being attacked." Arkifa, looking at him, asked, "Should we just tear down this hovel, so the divine dragon can get out easier?" The hunter shouted, "Enemy." And the dragon said, "Pathetic humans. 6 dragons are already here." He released powerful energy and an explosion occurred. At this moment Zelbad, the Silver, the agent of the Earth Dragon Guild, who was closest to the 6 dragons, stood on the top of the tower. He folded his arms noticing the explosion and laughed, saying, "It seems to have begun." He remembered Gildiga's words, saying that he would go to purgatory to play with the swordsman. He must watch over the guild. If reinforcements came to them, he must crush it. He must also be careful with Seraphim. Most of the people in this era are weak, but there are some interesting ones. He thought, even though Mr. Gildigas said so, his abilities are the best among all the lieutenants. The swordsman saint is not here, so there is no way the humans can cause them trouble. Laughed and added, Mr. Ruble is not here, so there is an empty seat among the 6 dragons, and after winning this battle, Zelbad will be able to take it. But before he could rejoice at this thought, a powerful blow pierced his chest. Behind him stood Vice Captain Seraphim, an S-rank mage Inox, Yague Tetsuya. After that, he apologized. The promotion was a bummer. He then lit a cigarette and looked down and asked, "So the 6 dragons came here?" He looked at another explosion and said, "Let's go, it's time to work." Meanwhile, in the Central Command Office, Riku looked at his arm, which was being treated by Rina, and said, "Well, they have fully recovered." He thanked her, and then the Guildmaster said, "Now that they are healthy, he wants to talk to them about the countermeasures against the 6 dragons. They have definitely been revived, and even with Seraphim's power, they can't help but be shocked." Riku said about that, "He's been thinking about it ever since he saw Ruble's demon form. If they can control magic so well and also achieve demon form." At that moment the building shook. The girls thought in surprise. This magic, Riku thought, just like Ruble's, no, even stronger than. He shouted that he was afraid that it was another one of the 6 dragons. Misaki shouted in fear, "But the swordsman saint isn't here, right?" The guildmaster shouted, "There are many civilian staff down there. We need to stop the enemy." Then the hunters quickly ran forward. Erika thought if the dragon took human form, it could easily infiltrate the city, and since they were preparing and took advantage of Vegito's absence, they might have more than one opponent. At that moment a crack appeared in the wall in front of them, and Riku shouted, "Erika." The next second she used a shield protecting the others. Beams of energy burst out from the cracks of the building. Erika asked Misaki, who stood behind her, if she was okay. In response, she thanked her, and Rina told them not to relax. The battle was just beginning. They stopped near the hole that appeared in the wall. In front of them sat one of the 6 dragons. the deep-sea Nishi, she asked. Are they seraphim? I wonder what she will take a look. She introduced herself and said that she would like to play with them. Rika shouted that this is not the magic from earlier. Misaki thought that this can't be. There are two of them. The dragon told them not to worry. She suggested that they play until Ragnar woke up, though she released water energy in different directions, covering the building with more cracks, and said that at such a moment, she could kill by accident. Meanwhile, in the underground floor, the headquarters of the Magicians Guild, Vitra in human form walked forward and approaching the door said, "So it exists." Only the previous heads of the guild knew about the underground cave. The gates of hell. The system gave a signal and the doors began to open. He said that it was too long. The one who awakens the divine dragon will become the next king and will rule over everything, and it will be him, the black dragon Vitra. Meanwhile, the guild members ran out of the building. They shouted, "Enemy! Seraphim is already here. We need to find the intruder." One of the 6 dragons, the glorious dragon Horus, came out of the bushes and sitting down on a bench, looked at the screen of his phone saying no, but how glad he was that he decided to participate. With a guard like him you can relax. He thinks that our Shifa will take care of the small fry, and he can sit and read manga. At that moment Tetsuya appeared behind him, pointed his fingers at him, making a gun shape, and fired a powerful beam of energy. But the dragon managed to jump aside, and still looking at the screen of his phone, said that although he hoped to skip the showdown, it seems that he will not be able to. Tetsuya said that he is different from all the weaklings. At that moment a member of Seraphim, the Grim Reaper Nagisa Sakai, appeared in front of him and told him to leave it to him. He is one of the 6 dragons. Isn't he this guy? He wants to buy new clothes with the reward for killing him. Tetsuya shouted out what he was thinking. A member of Seraphim, the actress Mayasami, gave a thumbs up and said, "Great, she'll go shopping with him. Because of this job her clothes are always getting ruined." He shouted out and she went along with him. The dragon chuckled. So they are that Seraphim. He apologizes. He is just excited about the upcoming battle. But can he finish reading first? He showed them the screen of his phone and added, he really wants to read the latest chapter of the manga. Asami gave him a thumbs up and said, "Can you finish reading first?" Very cute, but they think the same. The next second Sasaki created a magic symbol in front of himself, and used an ability called Shadow Servant. The shadow of a wolf appeared right in front of him, and Asami raised her hand up and said that she is starting. She used a boost, pointing it at Sasaki. Then his shadow increased in size, fixing its gaze on the dragon. And he thought that the magic suddenly became much more powerful. "So she's a support mage then?" Sasaki said. Forward. The shadow ran towards the dragon,